Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you in another video. All right, so according to just Jeff Fisher, I believe is his name, Jake Fisher, Jeff Fisher. Forgive me, I'm not a journalist. Anyway, nevertheless, according to Jake Fisher, James Harden is going to report to camp with the 76ers if for some reason they're not able to get a trade to the Clippers, but his intention is to get to the Clippers. So that gives Daryl Morey a bit more wiggle room. I guess this is a solid given by James Harden to say, you know what, I'm not going to try to hold out. I'm not going to pull another Ben Simmons type of situation on the Philly fans. I'll be there. Let's just try to get this done. It gives him much more leverage to actually get a deal done. And as I told you guys earlier in my Clipper video, I legitimately think the Clippers have the assets to get James Harden. James Harden's contract is only $35 million, if I'm not mistaken. And the market may see him right now as somebody that isn't of that caliber at this point. So it shouldn't be too much to move expiring contracts, especially in a year where free agency is expected to be very, very good, with a lot of good names that could potentially be hitting free agency. Although I have my doubts if it's actually going to be that good, because I think some of those guys that are expected to be free agents may be signing extensions. So I wouldn't count on that. But nevertheless, they do have expiring contracts in LA with the Clippers that they can send off and put themselves in a position to get James Harden. I don't think it should be too hard for them to move stuff. Now, from what I understand, Terrence Mann, I believe he's at a $10 million contract. I don't remember how many years are on that. But that's the holdup. I think Daryl Morey wants him, and the Clippers are not moving him. So, James Harden's basically giving Morey a bit more time to try to figure that out. And, I like Terrence Mann a lot. I think you can consider that pretty intriguing, pairing him next to Tyrese Maxey. That's a lot of speed, power, and those guys are both rounding into form at the same time. So you can see how that can be intriguing to Daryl Morey. But I don't think he holds up the trade if it becomes a situation where things are going to get ugly. At this point, I don't think it will, as James Harden's already told us he's going to camp. With that being said, it's a long summer, and we got to see what happens. Certain scenarios can take place where trades are close, but triggers not pulled, or that kind of thing. It's a lot of things that can happen between now and the start of the season. If anything, I just believe that there are a lot of teams that have their roster spots already filled. So a lot of what was possible maybe 3 weeks ago may not necessarily be right now. So that's the issue with this dragging out, in my opinion. Just what other teams may be willing to incorporate themselves into it to make certain moves. Now, we know there are teams out there that are likely looking to move. One of the new teams that I've heard something about was the OKC Thunder. They have, from what I understand, 20 players under contract, which is 5 more over the limit. And because of it, they're going to have to drop some pretty interesting names. So we're going to have to figure out what's going on with them as well. Maybe the Clippers can get them involved, since they most definitely need to make a trade and have a solution that maybe can help themselves there. Now, I don't know, when you enter Sam Presti into the equation, he's going to want somebody to give up some picks of some sort. That's just how he works. And I know the Clippers don't have many of them. And Philadelphia likely probably would not want to give up any pick equity as well. I think about a team like Philadelphia, and I just say they need a real influx of talent. And I do believe OKC has plenty of it. The problem is the Philadelphia 76ers can't expect to just give up James Harden and expect to get the best return in this equation. They're going to have to be willing to move some other things as well. And so I think that's what's going to be hard for Daryl Morey to really kind of work his way into the equation. How do I do this deal without also having to throw in more? And if I do have to throw in more, is it going to be something I don't want to throw in? And so you don't want to inconvenience yourself by trading James Harden and getting him where he's going. But essentially, there are scenarios where you may have to do that to get it done. So I don't know if OKC would be interested in getting involved in this or not, but if I know of Sam Presti, he's definitely going to want more from Philadelphia in that trade. he's going to want that. Um, Even though they are trying to do an addition by subtraction, he's going to want something for the future. And so, yeah, that's kind of how you look at that situation. Another team you probably expect to get involved would be the Toronto Raptors. They've been long talking about moving some of these contracts that they have. OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam are the names that have been floated around as of late. And so I would imagine they want to get involved too. You know, they can make some moves and get better. And you always got to pay attention to teams that have made big moves, because they could be still looking to make big moves. A team like the Houston Rockets, I don't know that they're done. I don't think they're done at all. I look at their roster and I say they could shake some things up by moving a few guards, maybe even moving a few forwards, and kind of make a little more sense of what they have. So I would try to call them up and see if they'd want to incorporate themselves into this trade as well, if I were the Clippers. So you have your options. You know, that's the thing. You don't have to rush this process. You now understand that James Harden is definitely going back to Philly if this all comes down to a halt. So you take your time and work the phone to try to figure out who you can incorporate into this trade to facilitate it, to make it make more sense for all three teams. And I don't see this thing getting done soon, but I do expect it can get done. So that's what I have to say in regards to that. You know, all in all, the LA Clippers are a team that could afford to get better in their asset class, could use a boost. Now, I'm not so much on board with them bringing in James Harden, because I don't necessarily think that he's the most covetable piece in the league right now, meaning if they do bring him in, I'm not certain they can trade him for the same amount that they're going to send out, but it all depends on what they send out. So that's the key. He's not forcing his way there, which is also telling as well. I think that's more so of a courtesy to Daryl Morey, but it can speak to his looseness about actually moving all together. I don't expect that this would end with Philadelphia giving him some sort of extension, but there's some wild thought in my head that could be how this actually ends. They wouldn't shock me. Because at the end of the day, he and Daryl Morey are friends, and Philadelphia did expect to re-sign him for multiple years. I think the question was, at what price? Now, the future may not hold him staying in Philadelphia very long after that happens, but I'm saying if they can't get a deal done, since he is telling them he's going to report to camp, that does speak to his willingness to sit down with him more so than most who have been in situations such as this. And if guys felt betrayed, maybe this is an olive branch. So I'm sensing a certain agreement there. And while I'm sure he would want to go to the Clippers, my curiosity is, would he get an extension with those Clippers? Does he want one? Is that the same deal he would want from the Clippers? Obviously, it could be a different relationship there. So you don't know what if he would want the same thing from the Clippers that he would want from Philadelphia. But nevertheless, you do want to speak to the Clippers if you're James Harden's side of things, and find out if you can get a contract that would give you those multiple years that you would be looking for. Because the thing about it is, you look at what Russell Westbrook was able to sign for, and that's what you're trying to avoid if you're James Harden. You want to get a contract right now while your value is at this level for multiple years, so that you don't have to face those years that people are going to be paying you that type of money. Because that's exactly what will likely be the case for him if he reaches free agency. So obviously, with that being the case, I'm sure all franchises would be aware of that, and thus would be wary of giving him a contract. But because of the uniqueness of this Philadelphia situation, I wouldn't be surprised if that's how this ended. So that's what I'll say there. We've seen stranger things happen. And at the end of the day, James Harden is a Hall of Famer who has taken a pay cut for the Philadelphia 76ers organization already. And they really do need to win right now. And Joel Embiid said he wants James Harden there, which is what fuels this thought in my head to begin with. They are on the verge of losing Joel Embiid, if not the media is telling us that they are. And I think it's reasonable for Joel Embiid to want either out of there or an extension of his own. And so that could be an interesting situation over the next several years, if not months, throughout this summertime. But I think James Harden re-signing at a price that the organization is happy with could speak to settling of things in regards to Joel Embiid. And so maybe it is the right idea, especially since James Harden is reporting back to camp. So that is really an important thing right there. Um, Given the fact that they don't like the Clipper return, and the different things that have been said, obviously it's held up the trade. Clearly, the return hasn't been what they wanted to be. It would be done already. So that's what I'm reading into the situation as I look there. Um, if you're Philadelphia, my understanding since speaking to you guys about Philly is that they do really, really value Maxey. Um, that can mean they're keeping his value up to trade it just the same. that news is out there, or it can mean exactly what it sounds like. But I think Tyrese Maxey has played some pretty solid ball over the last several years, but he's been working his way back from injury. So I'd expect more from him this upcoming season than probably what he's given the Sixers the last 2 years. With that being said, can he stay healthy? And are they going to surround him with a team that really makes sense for him? And so Joel Embiid obviously makes sense for everybody. you want him on every team anyone's on, but at the same time, some of the other pieces, I don't know. And my thing with Tobias Harris is, I understand they really like him. I think he's played well in the playoffs as of late. You've seen him do good things. But is he the player that's going to help them get over the hump at the price that he's likely going to be owed? He's already on 35, expiring. Does it not make sense to move him for a piece that you probably think is a bit of an upgrade? Because I know those pieces are on tap, and guys who you will likely consider having better contracts for the duration of those years. Because if you re-sign Tobias Harris at the wrong price point, it's going to be a bad contract if he's aging. If you trade it for somebody else who maybe you don't expect that from, you feel a lot better about the contract and the player themselves. So that's what I'm thinking about. Who can be that piece for the Philadelphia 76ers? And they have plenty of options, I would imagine, if they got creative. So that's really what it comes down to. I don't know if they're going to be thinking that way, but they need to upgrade their team in a way that they have yet to. And ultimately, from what I understand, they're trying to play the wait and see for 2024 idea. And my thing is the same as it was this morning. 24 has fantastic players involved in the free agency pool, but who of them is going to Philadelphia to play with you? Who's going to go up there to sign up for the Philadelphia 76ers, who've had the type of problems that they've started the season with over the past several years? I mean, it's kind of like what the Lakers had going on when we were dealing with Jim Buss, maybe at a different level, but same overall idea. You got to get your house in order, clean up the front office and everything that's awry. Make it so that you can have some good seasons where people are not having so many questions about your team every year. You know what I mean? So that they can actually want to go there and see a stable environment from which to play ball. That's really what it comes down to. It's always so much drama in Philly and not enough winning. And so that's why a guy in 2024, depending on the type of season Philly has this upcoming season, may not want to go there. He may look at other options, and believe me, there will be other options, and just say, man, I'm going to go to another team. I'm not going to choose Philadelphia. And all this cap space that you seem to want to keep for yourself doesn't even get you the best players. So that's my thing with the Philadelphia 76ers. It's time to make a change. I don't believe a rebuild is the way to go. I do not. But they do need to retool, and they do need to prioritize 2023 a bit more. And there's still ways to make your team exciting for yourself in terms of getting the right type of talent to feel good about in trade with the assets that they have available to them. So while James Harden's trying to get to the Clippers, that can be tough because you would love to want to trade him to one of those other teams with a better package, which is obviously out there. But he's trying to make his move in whatever direction he does. If anything, I just want to get some guys on this team on multiple year deals that Joel Embiid can be happy about playing with, so we don't have him asking out. That's the bottom line. If that's a Zach LaVine, get him here. If that's a Jaylen Brown, get him here. Whoever it is that he's going to be cool playing with, who's on contract. So we don't have to worry about him hitting free agency. You know, that's what you want. You don't want to wait to see if you can get LeBron James, you know what I'm saying, or Kawhi Leonard if you're Philadelphia. I'm telling you, because if that's how y'all thinking, Joel Embiid would be best to just say, you know what, thank you, get me out of here. That's the bottom line. So that's my little take on Philadelphia. I don't like where this is headed for them or Joel. Not right now. They did not do enough to help themselves to put them on the right side of the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. And it's going to be on him to have another MVP season just for them to make the playoffs. I really believe that. Man, Tyrese Maxey's going to have to be healthy. So these are the type of things we're looking at. And shouldn't be. They need to make some moves. And Daryl Morey, he's in a good spot with James Harden willing to go back to camp. Bottom line, he's in a good spot in regards to that. As long as everything remains kosher and everybody's kind in the media, I think it's a good chance they can keep the leverage they need to make the move they need to make. And that's what it's all about. So that's my take on them. And this is really what it comes down to. This team that I'm looking at here in Philadelphia, they gotta look at this year as a win now year, man. If they're not gonna make any moves, Nick Nurse has a lot of pressure on him to get everybody on board with whatever his offense is gonna be, and they need to be on a string defensively as well. And I just do not expect a whole lot from this roster right now. I just do not. And so I am not certain we won't see another few moves from the Philadelphia 76ers, whether it be forced or just something to improve their team. I think they're going to be active. I definitely believe that right now. So I do think we can get some news this summer now that I'm considering what we're looking at. News is imminent because certain teams are just going to have to make moves. And if they stagger it right, it could be good for the media. You know what I mean? In terms of us being able to have something to say. Oh, yeah. Have one trade in the end of next week, and then another trade midway through August, and another trade somewhere in the beginning of September. If they stagger it out that way, it might be just enough to get it done. And I think the NBA might actually think that way themselves. But, yeah, that's possible. That is definitely possible, especially given the fact that training camp can make some things change about what you see. Hopefully guys stay healthy, knock on wood. That can also change some things. So Houston, my mind just keeps going back to Houston and the players that they have, and also OKC in regards to young players that could be on the move. With OKC just basically needing to cut at least one young player, that player could potentially go somewhere and really be a helpful piece to whatever team they go to. And then with Houston, I just think about KPJ, Kevin Porter Jr. I just cannot see a world where they don't either free up some space for him to play more or move him rather, to create space for others. So I just don't see a way you can have him coming off the bench or eating up too many minutes to where Amon Thompson isn't playing, or something like that. Jalen Green isn't playing as much, or something wild that shouldn't really happen. With the jump that is expected from Terry Eason, obviously with Cam Whitmore being a player that's going to have a lot of energy at all times and a lot of power, even out the gate, he's going to be a man amongst boys in certain situations. So his production is imminent so long as he stays healthy. It's a lot of stuff to look at in Houston, and I say they're a dangerous basketball club. I don't know that they have enough experience to win too many basketball games, but throughout the course of games, they're going to dish out a lot of punishment, and they have some wildly talented players. So you don't know who's going to go off at any given night. And if they all go off at once, the scores can be unprecedented. So that's what I'm expecting from that team. They have a lot more talent than I think people are expecting. So that's why they're one of the more exciting teams. Does that translate to victories throughout the course of basketball games? I don't know. Because you got to be able to hit shots, get stops, things of that nature. But their athleticism and their ability to use their speed and the shooting ability of a guy like Smith, or the cerebral nature of a guy like Sengun, if it all comes together, I don't know where they land. I simply don't know where they land. And I'm telling people this right now. It's a lot of teams that we like in the Western Conference. Their team doesn't have the upside of the team that we're discussing right here, the Houston Rockets. As good as their team is, whoever we're talking about, if all of the Houston Rockets play well at the same time, there's a good chance the Rockets are going to win. Because that's the upside of all of the sum of their parts when you consider all of those young players coupled with Fred VanVleet. So it's like, there are going to be nights where Fred's capable of going off at 35, 40 points. And if Amen Thompson's also having a triple-double, which is possible, Cam Whitmore is going for like 7 steals, which is possible. It's a lot of stuff that can be wild in regard to a game with the Houston Rockets, especially when you have a coach like Ime Udoka who thinks defense the way that he does. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I don't know how good that team is going to be. I don't know how good they're going to be. But I know that it's early, and usually teams like this do not win early. Usually they do not. But usually they also don't have a player like Fred VanVleet leading the way. And with him coming off a bad season, one would think he's going to have a bounce back year in a new spot. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for there. He's in a different system, probably a more fluid system, probably one that plays at a more fast pace. And if that's the case, his numbers may inflate. So I don't know. A lot of lob opportunities for different players. A lot of players playing off of him to create pressure for, rather space for him, pressure off of him in regards to space. And so that's what I'm looking at for Fred VanVleet. I just think he's going to be able to pick his spots and probably get guys involved in ways that maybe he didn't have in Toronto. Similar setup in a way because of the type of talent that's going to be in positions that are similar to the way Toronto had it. You consider Pascal Siakam versus, Jabari Smith, upgrade with the point guard position, not the point guard position, but the center position. You consider Jakob Poeltl to Sengun, and then you look at Green. You'd have to play him off to say maybe Gary Trent upgrade. You see how this is all parallel? And so you look at Cam Whitmore, Scotty Barnes type of thing, Terry Eason. To combine the two, they can come out to be more so than what Scotty was. So he's on a better team. He's just on a flat out better team. And that's just going to have to manifest with all of those players reaching their highest potential. If they have injury issues and things of that nature, there's depth on that roster. And if, with the ability to put in a guy like Dylan Brooks, the defensive ability that he has, I expect their defense to be significantly better just from having that acquisition, coupled with year 2 of Jabari Smith, where I know he can play some defense. So it's a lot of stuff that you consider with that team. Even though they say Sengun doesn't play defense, I've seen games where he's had like 7 steals, 6 steals. So it's like you have to convince me that this savant of a player isn't going to be able to get stops when his team is looking to succeed. And he's been on a tanking team these last several years. So I don't know what to expect from the Houston Rockets the first year. But by year 3, they'll probably have about 4 All-Stars if they keep this core together. That's just what I see there. And so, I think Houston should be excited. I don't think they tore it up too much, even though I don't really love what they did with the trades that they made. I think they still kept enough of them together to be excited about, but they still have some more subtracting to do, some more shuffling to do to make the roster a bit more balanced. And so for now, some guys are going to be sitting that shouldn't be sitting, and or they're going to be making substitutions at a rapid pace in ways that we've never seen before. In and out, in and out, in and out, as to which that would be terrible for the guys. So that's kind of what I'm seeing there, man. Sacrifice is going to be key, and those are a lot of young players with some big personalities. So I don't know if the locker room's going to be balanced this year if they don't make some trades as well. That's just something that I think really could be the Achilles heel of the team. It's just whether or not everybody's going to be mature enough to stay together long enough to want to keep them maturing together. Some of these guys they're chiefs. They're not role players. They're just going to have to play roles. But if they all buy in, they can do something special over the next several years. And so that's what they got to believe. And Ime Udoka's going to have to sell them that. And to be honest with you, I think he's the right guy to do so. I really do. I think they're gonna rally behind him. I don't think the situation that took place is great in regards to his history. I did say that I didn't think he should be, leading young players, so I want to be careful not to be a hypocrite. But I just look at the situation, specifically the situation. I just say it's so much talent here that would refocus a basketball mind. If he was going to a team that I thought was not very good, I would be more concerned about this with him leading young teams, young talent. But since this young talent is so talented, it's like, nah, that doesn't necessarily come into play. What you're more excited about is just what all of them can do at the same time. When I think about him, the athleticism of just in general, the type of lineups he can put on the floor with Green, Thompson, Whitmore, just those three alone. Any lineups you put those guys in are going to be dominant. They're just going to be flat out dominant because they have such power and such athleticism and speed that they're going to be able to create opportunities to play off one another that rarely have we seen in this league. It's going to be ridiculous. And so I'm trying to express what I see in my head just based on so much footage of watching all these players individually. If they play off each other the way I think they will, it's going to be special. So long as Amen Thompson can hit his jumper. Which, to be honest with you, I think he may be able to. And if that's the case, good night. Good night. So, yeah, he's going to have to stay healthy as well, get back from that ankle injury, come back without any setbacks there, which I don't expect. He's probably already healthy, to be honest with you. That's a young player who's got a lot of athleticism, so the likelihood that he heals pretty fast is pretty solid from what I've seen. But I ain't no doctor. What do I know? At the end of the day, we don't play games with ankle injuries, so I would advise him to rest up until he's 100% with that one. And, yeah, that's pretty much the end of my thought in regards to the Houston Rockets. They just have a very high ceiling. The floor is pretty low, with the parity that you would expect from the Western Conference. It's more likely that they won't succeed in getting a really good record this year, but the ability for us to see those kids pop, you're going to see opportunities for them to showcase who they're going to be in the future. You're going to see that. they're going to show glimpses, I guess is what I'm trying to describe. So that's pretty much a thought on that team, man. And yeah, I think that'll pretty much conclude my video because I'm looking up here and I don't have too much time to speak. But because something's uploading, that is the reason that is. So if that is done, I may come back and give you another video describing my thoughts on other teams as well. So look out for BDF44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.